So, today on the podcast, we're going to talk about this idea of balance, work life balance, as a mom, especially. And I talk to my chiropractic patients about this concept of balance because I think we treat it like it's a destination or like it's a fixed point or something that can be achieved. But really, in nature, when you look at balance, it is a fleeting state of affairs, right? Even when we talk about like our posture, if I were to perfectly balance my posture, all right, my hips are perfectly centered over my knees, which are right over my ankles. My chin and head are tucked in just the right way where it's balanced perfectly over my shoulders. Well, then what? I'm just standing there, right? I can't move. I'm in a state of perfect balance, but as soon as I move my foot to take a step forward, I'm out of balance again, right? So the only way that we can move forward and create movement in our lives is by working in and out of that state of balance. I think a big piece of this conversation is boundaries, at least for me, because I run my own business. So if I don't create boundaries around when I'm going to get work done, you can bet your bottom dollar it's going to bleed into every single moment of every single day. And I could work every single night for hours after my son goes to bed, but that's not always the best thing for me. So learning where to enforce these boundaries and then how to actually have the discipline to stick to these boundaries has been the biggest challenge for me as a mom and as a business owner. So I'm going to talk all about this work-life balance today on the podcast, and I hope that it is helpful for some of you moms out there that are trying to figure out how to do it all. So without further ado, let's give it a listen. Today, I want to talk about balance in motherhood, the elusive balance. I actually have people ask me this all the time because I'm someone that likes to pile many things on my plate. I am trying to simultaneously be an entrepreneur and being a fully present stay-at-home mom at the same time. There's definitely times during my week where I really have to get shit done. And I also really don't want to miss out on the most precious moments of these really, really precious years with my son. So I think about this idea of balance all the time. And I always have to formulate my answer when other moms ask me, how do I, quote, do it all? And the answer is, I don't do it all. I don't have balance, and I accept that. That's the way that I find balance in terms of just sanity and ease, because at the end of the day, you having ease in your heart is all that matters. And the ratio of different things that are on your plate in terms of like work life, mom life, that's always going to be in flux. It's almost like if you had a plate and you were divvying up portions of your plate towards different aspects of your life. There are definitely times where my plate is like 90% work stuff, 10% mom stuff. There are times where my plate is 99% mom stuff and 1% work stuff. And I don't always get to choose what's on my plate. The fun thing about motherhood is someone else is serving us that plate. We are not at hometown buffet. We are given whatever friggin' plate we have to work with on any given day. And you may think that you're going to eat a certain meal, that a certain plate is going to be prepared for you. And then you wake up that day and your babysitter calls out or your kid is sick or whatever happens. And all of a sudden you're eating a completely different plate that day. And you need to be able to pivot. So I would always say that my quote secret to finding balance in motherhood is learning how to adapt and becoming more resilient at pivoting. So when things don't go according to plan, how long do you dwell in what you thought was going to be true versus, how quickly are you able to just accept, all right, this is the way my day is going to look. How do I just roll with that and try to be present? Now, being present is another huge challenge I have found as a business owner and as a mom, because oftentimes I feel like I am having an endless to-do list of things I need to do for my business that I can never finish. And also every single moment, my son is changing and growing, and like sand through an hourglass, these are the days of our lives. It's hard to shut out the to-do list when I'm with my son, and it's hard to shut out the guilt of not being with my son when I am working on the to-do list. So I try my best to be organized with my time and carve out times during my week that are non-negotiable. That's the time that I have to get shit done. and I do what I got to do, and I focus and I get done what I get done. Whatever wasn't done, it's going to have to wait, because when I'm with my son and I'm having family time, I need to be able to drop into that mode completely. And if I have the time carved out in my week where I know the next time I'll have available to work on something, it helps immensely, because this happens all the time. Let's say I've got 2 hours that I have babysitting in the morning. I'm going to get some work done. Later that day, I'm with my son and he's riding his bike around the neighborhood, and all of a sudden I think of something I forgot to do and I want to go right back into work mode. It can feel very angst ridden and anxiety producing for me if I don't know the next time I'm going to be able to implement that idea or go back and revisit the thing that I forgot to do. I need to know that I have that time. I can say, okay, let me just make a quick note in my phone. I'll work on that, on Thursday, whenever my next time is, where I can sit down and have help. So having help is another really big part of achieving, quote, balance. And let's just stop saying balance. Let's just say, like, making it work. I think support is a big part of making it work if you are having a job or a passion or a business, and also being a mom. Another unique angle about this perspective on being a working mom and finding balance / making it work is that I'm a really big proponent of attachment parenting, which I really feel is just biological parenting, meaning parenting in line with what our bodies were designed to need in order to grow and develop and thrive appropriately. But essentially, attachment parenting is really emphasizing the connection between your child and a primary caregiver, and doing things like baby wearing and breastfeeding and bed sharing and staying close to your baby who doesn't necessarily realize they are separate from you. So it's not necessarily a school of thought that it's going to advocate for like sending your kid to daycare at 3 months old. Side note, no shame or shade ever to moms that have to put their children in daycare at 3 months. I feel as if, and I hope that goes without saying on this podcast, never coming from a place of judgment. We got to do what we got to do. And also, I believe from a neurological perspective and from an optimal growth and development perspective, of course, our children would prefer to be with us when they are young, right? We are always going to be the best connection for them. However, I've also come to embrace the fact that as my son is now a toddler, he actually, I feel, gets a benefit from being around different people other than me. And I don't know at what age I feel like that necessarily shifted. I definitely feel like that first year of life, it was a lot of time at home with me and my husband and my son. And at a certain point, he became more social. He was looking to engage, and he would engage my mom or a babysitter in a completely different way than he would engage us. And I felt like him having that variety was actually really beneficial. So I think it can be really helpful to have this tribe of people. I don't think that we're designed to do it alone. Like each of us in our individual households raising a child, the way that humans used to live is in villages, and they had extended family. In fact, in many areas of the world, they still have a strong sense of extended families, so that there were actually multiple caregivers that had these strong attachments with these children. And sometimes the other older children in the village would have relationships with these kids and help to bring them up and spend a lot of time with them. And it was just like this communal effort. So it's like, on the one hand, we want to nurture these strong individual attachments with caregivers. And on the other hand, we need to have a tribe and a support network, because it's also like such a mental burden to feel like you have no support and like you have no help, or that the only help you have is a stranger to help with your kid. And that, unfortunately, is a reality that many, many, many moms are facing, that they don't have family that lives nearby, they don't have extended family, and they have to entrust their child under the care of essentially a stranger, which probably feels like it really is at odds with what would bring most ease and most peace, in their heart. So anyway, I think a big part of making things work is having the right support and finding someone that you trust. I think that you or your husband or your partner, the parents, are the best case scenario. I think family is the next best thing. Family is always going to be most optimal, but if you do not have any family nearby, you can absolutely find help and support. You can get a mother's helper. There's a lot of Facebook groups nowadays where you could find nannies and babysitters that are background checked. I think an in-home nanny or babysitter is probably the next best scenario after parents or family members if you can afford it. You could also do a nanny share where you group up with someone else that has a kid your age and you guys share the cost of having a caregiver. But this gives the child a consistent person that they can bond with and have that attachment with. And then I think from there, you would go to like a daycare as a third choice if neither one of those two prior choices were available. And then, of course, the irony of something like daycare is a lot of people end up just working to pay for the cost of childcare. So it's like they're working to break even and they don't get to spend the time with their kids. They're just working. It's such a conundrum in the world that we live in today with no paid leave, et cetera, et cetera. So the first way to make it work is to embrace support. The second way to make it work is getting quicker at adapting. Like I mentioned, I think that's a really huge piece of it, is how we're able to embrace what is, accept what is in this moment and not label it and not judge yourself for not being present, just trying to use any opportunity you can to get back into the present if your mind wanders. So if I'm with my son, I think about something work related. I have the stress of thinking that work-related thought, but then I immediately after have the stress of the guilt of me shaming myself for having thought that thought in the first place when I'm supposed to be being present with my son. Like, let's stop doing that. It's probably impossible to stop doing that, but let's try to give ourselves grace when we do that. And then the third strategy that I think is really important in making everything work is having a very, very, very strong self-care game. Now, as a mom, if you have kids already, you know it's very hard to carve out time to care for yourself when you're caring for a tiny human, especially if you're caring for multiple tiny humans. So self-care as a mom, I think, looks different than it does before you're a mom, when maybe you do have time multiple times a week to do an hour-long massage and do an hour-long workout and get a mani-pedi, whatever it is that is your thing. Self-care for moms, I feel, especially in the early motherhood years, are little daily habits that we have to incorporate into our lives with our children. Some of my favorite go-to self-care things are going on a walk. I think at any age, children love and benefit going from walks, getting some outdoor time, grounding. So actually having your feet or your body touching the earth. We are around so many electronics. I know I'm on the computer all the time and I'm on my phone all the time for work. When we are able to plug back into the earth, we're able to absorb the negative charge of the earth. It's able to neutralize basically our energy field, and it just feels good, and it's just good for all of our cells, and it's settling, and it helps bring us back to equilibrium. So when you are spending time outside, going for walks are great, but also finding time to have your bare feet in the grass or on the sand, not with a layer of concrete in between, but like directly on the earth, even if you're just in a little square bit of dirt. Also, it's good to let your kids dig around in the dirt a little bit, lest we forget another key principle: building a biome. As we're growing up, we're not meant to live in sanitary, sterile environments. Got to get our hands dirty a little bit. But once again, I digress. Another really simple self-care routine of mine is doing a gratitude journal. Do I have 20 minutes to journal every day? No. However, I do very often have 30 seconds to a minute, and that's all I need to do my gratitude journaling. I basically make a list of three things I'm grateful for. And if I don't get to do this like first thing in the morning, I mean, that's very rare, or last thing before I go to bed at night, if I get my son down and I've got a little time to myself, sometimes I will do my journaling then. But more often, I'm just like grabbing a Post-it, or I am opening up the notes in my phone and I'm just jotting down a couple gratitudes anytime I feel the need during my day to ground or to reconnect, or I'm feeling pulled in multiple directions. Making a list and focusing on the things that are beautiful and abundant in my life makes a really huge difference in shifting my mindset and helping to recenter. A final strategy I have to make things work is to find those little moments, not just of self-care, but of joy. Like, let yourself feel joy. And the more stressed out you're feeling, the more you need to just give yourself a complete pattern interrupt and do something totally silly. I love that kids are great about bringing the silly parts of us out. But like, one of my go-tos is playing either early 90s, early 2000s country music or pop music, like getting some NSYNC, getting some Celine Dion, getting some Brandy or some Backstreet Boys going, or getting some good old school Keith Urban, something that I can like sing along to that just feels good, feels nostalgic. Usually my son only lets me play like one song. I've convinced him now that we can alternate. Mom gets to choose a song and then Rocco gets to choose a song. So I don't always get to play my entire playlist, but usually just belting it out to one song is enough of a reset for me. And that's just a way that I reconnect to joy and to fun as a part of my day. But You can do a silly little game with your kid. You guys can tickle each other, like anything that gets you giggling and laughing and reconnecting to joy. Because at the end of the day, this shit ain't really that serious. I believe that we're all here to have a good time and to connect with one another and to experience love and abundance. And let's not forget that ultimately that's the most important thing. Ultimately, I think this season of life is about accepting that your plate is never going to be perfectly proportioned. Maybe it will be for a moment, for a brief moment, an hour, couple days streak there, but it's certainly not a fixed state. And I don't know that that's sustainable. And I don't know that we're designed to have that level of perfectly apportioned balance. I think that we are meant to be tested and be stretched and to increase our capacity to be able to handle more and to take on more, and at the same time be able to be more present and be able to be more grounded and be able to have more bandwidth to be able to hold the experience of our children's childhood as well as the experience of ourselves as multidimensional humans, often involved in multiple different endeavors, and not forgetting to find those little moments of joy, those little moments of ease throughout your crazy ass days. We have officially utilized the plate analogy to its full extent. So I will leave you with that. May you find joy in the little moments this week. May you embrace a season of life where balance isn't really a thing. And if you think the mom next to you has it all figured out and she's in a state of perfect balance, I can guarantee you she's not. She's feeling the same things you do. And it is a dynamic dance, making it all work. You're doing great. I'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks for hanging out with me today. If you loved this episode, please hit follow, leave a review. You know that's the way this whole podcast thing works. Better yet, share on your social media so I can help reach other scrunchy moms just like you. If you would like to connect with other moms, keep this party going and unlock all of my resources on pregnancy, birth, postpartum, motherhood, and beyond, you're going to want to join our private all-access community inside of Circle, which is linked below in the show notes. Now go drink some water, eat something other than your kids' leftovers, and I'll catch you on the next episode.